Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of the SportsLogos.Net podcast. I am Chris Creamer here, joined, as always, by Mr. Paul Caputo. We have a great episode today. I'm very excited because not only are we going to talk about, what are we talking about, Paul?
We're talking about the hypothetical redesign of some NFL uniforms, and we have a very special guest to talk about that. Chris, I'm going to throw it back to you. Who's that very special guest?
Not really a guest at all, more like a part of the family. How about we say that? Andrew
like that.
Lind, who has been the NFL, NCAA, NBA, and anything else we can think for him to do, contributor, writer on SportsLogos.Net, who just finished a fantastic NFL redesign series on the site. Andrew, thank you for joining us today. How you doing?
Thanks for having me. I'm doing pretty well.
So you went through this series. You know, we had a lot of new NFL uniforms and logos that came out this year. But you said, you know what, why not more? And I agree with you. The NFL could always use some new logos and uniforms. So I thought it'd be fun if we went through the 5 teams that you wanted to see update next. So I'm going to have to get Paul to say this one so people don't yell at me for pronouncing the name wrong. They play in Jacksonville.
It is the Jaguars, right? Is that what you say, Chris? The Jaguars.
Oh, he's making fun of me again.
It's this is actually, I mean, I'm glad we're starting here by listing these teams because my first question is, Andrew, how did you choose these teams? This is the Carolina Panthers, of course, and then the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Jaguars.
I guess. I don't know. Jacksonville, write in. Tell us if we're doing it right. The Miami Dolphins, the New Orleans Saints, and the New York Giants. So I'm curious, Andrew, first, how did you settle on those 5 teams?
Yeah, so I think that they're kind of in an interesting position just because we're at that time where things are trending toward simplified designs, classic designs, things that people kind of latch onto from a nostalgia standpoint. I mean, we saw when the Jaguars, see, I had to make sure I said it correctly.
No, it gets in your head, doesn't it?
Before I get into that,
in your head.
One day I sat there in the middle of the night and I said Dodgers to myself like 18 times. I could not, for the life of me, figure out why this word did not make sense in my head. And I just kept going.
Don't worry, I hear the word Dodgers in my head all night too. Don't worry.
Yeah, there's no trolleys in Los Angeles. That's the problem.
Well, that was the thing. So I ended up going down this whole rabbit hole about how they got their name, why they got their name, and you kind of forget that they were in Brooklyn and so on and so forth. But there's
Chris,
so much.
Andrew, if I may interject here, I think Andrew's going to fit right in, given that we asked a question about 5 NFL teams, and in about 15 seconds we were talking about the Dodgers. So it's Andrew. That's how this podcast goes.
We always find a way to somehow remind me of the World Series last year. That's just not.
I'm not gonna lie, I was not rooting for your Blue Jays, but
okay.
It's
it was nice having you here, Andrew. I'm sorry we have to cut your time short.
I said this as soon as they were in it, though, as I've watched every team in the AL East except for my own team play in a World Series, so it's kind of hurtful. Yeah.
I watched your team play in the World Series in 1983. I was 10 years old and watched the Orioles beat my Phillies.
-7.
Andrew's done, right, Chris? We're done with Andrew now?
You know, I forgot he's an Orioles fan, so I can give him a pass. It's okay not to cheer for a division rival. So, okay, you're fine.
I'd say their play is enough. So when it comes to these teams, you've kind of noticed a shift in the last 5 years or so where teams kind of find what is the look that all of our fans associate with us the most. You know, and it doesn't necessarily have to be necessarily a good looking design. I think all the ones that I chose were at that point, but where is it that you can kind of lean into a design that resonates with a large portion of your fan base, is not necessarily over the top, like with all of them. For the Jaguars, for example, they introduced these Prowler throwback uniforms 2 years ago, and when you compare it to what they currently wear, there's actually more detail to it. So it's not as if just simple is what is in. It's something that people view as classic, that resonates with them as fans, and so on and so forth. And I think for them specifically, that's exactly what that franchise is. It's not, this gradient black to gold helmet that they were for a couple years. I mean, they did have a kind of a nice helmet with the color shifting black to teal. those kind of things. But when you think of them, you think of, this black helmet with the old logo on it, the teal jerseys with the full body Jaguar on the side, like those kind of things. So to me, it just makes sense to go around that entire look and create a full identity from that.
Well, and the sorry, the Jaguars, their throwback look is such a unique look in the NFL too, right? Like I know like the Dolphins, they also kind of wear a teal aqua color, but nobody quite looked like Jacksonville did. Not only did nobody look like Jacksonville, but Jacksonville looked pretty good in it, right? Like this that teal gold, the black, it all went together well. Yes, it's right out of the mid 90s, but it still stands out today. And Paul and I were talking about it a couple of months ago when the Titans decided to go to powder blue in a way that really helped them stand out from the rest of the league, dropping navy blue for a nice lighter shade of blue. The Jaguars can really, own being the teal team in the NFL while also, appeasing fans of the throwback, just making an overall improvement in their look. No, they're not simplifying their logo and everything, but really just, you know, standing out on the field where you turn on a game and instead of seeing a head to toe black uniform, which really could be anybody, it could be the Jets, it could be, it could be the Cardinals, it could be Jacksonville, or you see, the black helmet, teal jersey, white pants, whatever, you're watching Jacksonville. So to me, that's a pretty easy move for Jacksonville
Yeah.
to make.
When you look at like what teams are doing now, they're taking these classic looks and then they're adding little modern pieces to it. We saw the Jaguars add a white helmet 2 years ago. They only wore it that season because they realized like, hey, this prowler look that we have is so much better than having to do a white helmet with a black jersey and white pants, and that could literally be just any generic team that has their logo on the side of that helmet. But I think that there are pieces like that white helmet that you could then put, their current logo on it, added in with, a nice like stripe that's from the pants of the Prowler throwback down the center, maybe a teal face mask, black face mask, whatever. And then that takes that classic look and adds some modern touches to it. And now all of a sudden you have a whole brand surrounding what you should look like. And then beyond that, I talked about in my article about how they had that brief period where the car brand, which I'm sure Chris mispronounces all the time as well, they had the full bodied Jaguar logo on the helmet, a silver helmet, and it went all the way across the shoulders and those kind of things. Now they can't go with that look because they're going to run into the same kind of copyright issues, whatever. But to me, it's like, okay, you have this amazing looking teal jersey. Let's experiment a little bit and say, let's go back to that silver helmet, same stripe as the pants, gets gray or silver pants, and then now all of a sudden you have like a, hey, this is what they could have looked like if they went down this route. And I think the NFL is so much more relaxed about that stuff now that it would be a little bit more acceptable than what it would have been 10, 15 years ago.
When I saw that you were proposing a redesign for Jacksonville, I was really kind of hoping that we were going to do something about the fact that their logo looks like a cat that just ate a teal flavored icy pop. Like this teal tongue. We got to do something about that, right? I feel like I'm alone on this one.
I can't say that I've ever had an issue with that, but now I'm not going to be able to unsee it.
How does it have a teal tongue? It was eating a teal icy pop.
Well, I think along those lines, though, I'm glad that you brought up the logo because that was one thing that I think does have to change if they would create this whole brand new, this classic inspired identity, because you can't go back to the old logo. Like if you said what is better, their current logo or their old logo, and you flip the way that it was unveiled, say from the 90s until 2012, they had their current logo and then switched to their old logo in 2012, you'd be like, what is this? This is like clip art. So you kind of have to merge those two things to move forward. You can't just revert to what it was before. And the NFL is not going to allow that anyway, because then that encroaches upon them being able to sell the classic helmet because it's not that new. There's such that merchandising difference there.
Yeah, I don't think there's a problem with them keeping the current logo. Is there any love in Jacksonville for that original logo? Like you say, like, it's not well designed. It's kind of the only reason why anyone would like it is because it's the original one, but there's not a lot of success tied to it. The design itself isn't anything special. But yeah, this modern one, it's a lot cleaner. It looks better on the side of the helmet. I like that they added a teal eye and a teal nose so they can get rid of the teal tongue if they wanted to. Paul, there you go.
Right?
Solution for you.
But
Uh,
what color tongue would you use though?
I just would not make it blue. I would make it literally any other color from their logo, or even just like gray or something to sort of get it out of the way.
So this is going to be a total shameless plug of like my concepts on your website when I was in like junior year of high school. I would be in the forums all the time, and that's kind of what got me started in all of this too. Is just visiting your site every single day, visiting UniWatch, like those kind of things, and just seeing that there were other people out there who thought and looked at things the same way that I did was such a cool thing. I came from a small town, and people looked at me like, why are you into jerseys? Why are you drawing logos in your notebook? Like, pay attention. And I was like, no, this is what interests me. But in my forum, or in my post in the concept forum, I actually took the head of the Jaguar and put it on kind of like I want to say kind of a Native American theme is what it was, because at that time it was, 2000s, the Redskins were still a thing, like those kind of things. And my idea was to move them to Los Angeles and have them be the Los Angeles Aztecs.
Mm.
Now, there was
okay.
still that whole idea of the logo wearing the Jaguar on the top of its head. And I just thought that that was kind of the coolest little thing. So I kind of wanted to plug that.
Now, did the Aztec have a teal tongue though? That's the big question.
Right.
No, I remember changing their colors. They were kind of more in line with like San Diego State, like the
Mm.
colors that they
Oh,
use, kind of a
yeah,
red,
Also the Aztecs.
yeah, red,
yeah,
black, and
that's right.
gold. Yeah, I guess I never thought about that, but that was kind of
Now,
where I
did
went, was just in
now
that
did you know
general
the
idea.
Aztecs were a soccer team in the '80s? Did you know that back then?
Where do they play?
The LA Aztecs, right?
Oh,
Wasn't that the NASL? Paul, I'm looking at you. You're the guy who was alive back then.
hmm.
You guys are the worst. I gotta go. 74 to 1981 in the NASL.
There you go.
Something I clearly knew off the top of my head and didn't Google
Yeah.
while you were picking on me for being old. It's
We weren't picking on you. We were just noting. It's a
It said
fact.
that they were part owned by Elton John and played at the
There,
LA Coliseum and the Rose
how
Bowl.
about that?
amazing. Did you know we're going to go way off topic here, but Elton John owned
Yeah.
a bunch of like oddball teams, right? Like Paul should know this specifically that he owned the Philadelphia Freedom tennis team in the '70s, right?
And right, just to go with the song, I guess.
Yeah, he even wrote a song about him.
He was the Bill Murray of other sports.
There you go. See that
Hey, it took
you're
me till
eating
now
into
to,
your
to bring in minor league baseball.
you're eating into your minor league minute, Paul. So okay, let's wrap up Jacksonville here.
Yeah.
Andrew, home road alternate. What are the colors of the jerseys? What are the colors of the helmets that you're
Yeah.
proposing here?
So home is just straight Prowler throwback with the new logos. Road, you have black helmet, white jersey, white or black pants options. I think you could even go teal in that respect. I think that we've seen them add that option with their current uniforms. And, it's not necessarily something that would be that classic look, but it's something to change it up every once in a while. And then the alternate is just, I mean, you could go silver, teal, silver,
Mhm.
and then just kind of mix from there. Like the white gives you the all white helmet gives you the all white option, those kind of things. But mostly what they're going to stick with is black, teal, white at home, and then black, white, and then probably black, because they did have some playoff success. And like I remember them winning a playoff game in Pittsburgh in that combination. David Gerard was the quarterback, and that kind of stuck with me. So
So sorry, was that a black jersey for the alternate?
yeah, then we'd have a black jersey for the alternate too. So
Yeah,
you could go
that works.
all black. Yeah, there's plenty of options there.
All right. So, Andrew, you said you wanted to talk about the Saints. I also want to talk about the Dolphins because there's another teal team, but we're a little tealed out right now. So let's go over to the Saints. Why do the Saints need a redesign, and what are you proposing?
Yeah, I mean the Saints, the biggest thing that they need is they need to figure out gold. And that's not necessarily their problem. That's something that Nike has and even Adidas and all these other companies have struggled with, is they went from these shiny, shimmer fabrics to more matte fabrics. It's created this disconnect between a glossy helmet, the numbers, when they get sweaty and wet and those kind of things, and they become wholly discolored. And then the pants, they look more like khakis than they do actually gold pants. So first of all, it's just identifying what is the true consistent shade of gold that they need to have, and then kind of go from there. And then we've seen with their throwback uniforms that are from like 67 and 68, those are what I would imagine that they would lean into fully, create something around that. We saw with them adding the white alternate helmets this year that that's created a whole new way of like taking something that's classic but then adding those modern touches that I was talking about. You have this the fleur de lis pattern and the stripes, those kind of things, and it's a tasteful way of doing it. So I think that you just have to find that gold consistency and then go fully in on, we need these classic stripes on the sleeves, we need actual stripes on the pants, because the Saints don't ever have that. Like they wear black pants. I mean, they have their gold pants, but their gold pants they barely ever wear. That does have a black stripe, but if you're wearing black pants all the time that have no stripe on it, that creates an issue that needs to be fixed too.
But who would have thought that, the Saints, their helmet color would be the one thing that needed to change? That, like, I would have thought, we're not going to touch the gold helmets. But when I saw, the black helmet seems obvious. The white helmet caught me totally off guard as something that looked really, really good with this set. You touched on the gold here. Now, when they came out with their alternate gold uniforms, I don't know, was it last year, a couple of years ago?
Yeah.
What everybody said the exact same thing was that this doesn't look gold, and it didn't look gold, right? So are you saying that, when they wore gold back in 2002, that uniform was a lot darker of a gold that was pre-Nike, of course.
Yeah.
Is that more along the shade that you think they should go to?
I would go back even further because I think like somewhere in the 80s they went from that old gold that you saw, and I mean it's really something that stuck out when they wore their throwback, the home version, the black one, and they wore it with their standard gold helmets. You could see that difference between that old, deeper, darker gold versus the more metallic Vegas gold that they had on their helmets. So I think it's one, you have to lean into it one way or the other, and it's going to be easier for them to lean into that older color because that's going to be a little bit more forgiving and not necessarily look as khaki. So to me, if you already have the fabric in the color that you need, then that's on, Riddell and whoever these other companies are that could potentially chip in to say, hey, let's find this consistent gold that's going to match. And that's why I think it was kind of cool to see some of the unveilings that we had this spring, because we saw like the Falcons, for example, they had kind of a matte helmet before, and the way that the light hit it in Mercedes-Benz Stadium didn't necessarily reflect it the way that they wanted to. So they changed it to like a low gloss, and that inherently makes it a little bit darker. You're going to get less of that reflection. And then the same thing exists for the Saints in the Superdome. You're going to have that kind of issue. So to me, it's like you try to do what you can to take away the metallicness to it and create something that's a deeper, darker shade.
Would a team in a place like New Orleans, this is the minor league baseball in me coming out right here, but like, right, like they had the baby cakes in New Orleans and it was green, yellow, purple. It was Mardi Gras colors. Would an NFL team ever do that for like an alternate? Would they ever just go completely? That question may come off a little silly, and it's probably a little silly, but the larger question is like these redesigns that we're talking about are, you know, largely ways that they can really refine existing brands, draw on their history, and really clean up, the brands that have existed. Are are there any teams out there, including the Saints, that you would just recommend blowing it up and doing something entirely different?
I mean, now at this point, you got me thinking I should do a whole other series of
Yes.
let's throw everything out the window and
The NFL Blow It Up series.
yeah,
Right. Let's
the
get
baby with the
Brandiose working
bathwater.
on NFL uniforms here and see what comes up.
Oh,
To your point, though, I
Brand.
think that that's kind of the whole point of the rivalry series, though,
Yeah.
is that
Mhm.
it's very much like the City Connect in Major League Baseball and City Edition uniforms in the NBA. When you're kind of given that freedom to do something a little bit more specific. So, I mean, I know the Saints aren't until I don't think it's definitely not this year, but I think it may be next year that the NFC South is doing it. Maybe even the year after that. That might be something for them to consider. I mean, I really like the Pelicans. What they've done with their City Connect uniforms is that whole voodoo, dark,
Hmm.
magic, that kind of stuff. I think there's ways of doing it. I don't know that I'd want them to go like full on Mardi Gras gold, purple, green, that kind of stuff. But I think that that could be kind of cool. I mean, and this is kind of giving something away too, but you'll notice that the Texans are kind of starting to drop these little things in their social media graphics. At the top of all of their recent social media graphics, they actually have these little blue tiles, and I don't think anybody's picked up on this. So this might be the first time people are hearing about this, but they're one of the teams. The AFC South is among the teams that are doing it this year. And if you remember, when everybody was talking about the Titans and the Oilers and the Texans all having their claim to Houston, the tiles that are on the side of the roads, like the street tiles, that's what they're looks like they're going to go with is some way to incorporate that into their rivalry's uniform. So to me, that's a long way of answering your question, but that I think would be the opportunity for the Saints to kind of say, hey, let's blow up what we have and go a little crazy with it.
The voodoo thing, like I'm just completely bypassing that big Texans bomb you dropped on everybody here. But that Mardi Gras thing, like you point out, the Pelicans did it for a while. They switched to that voodoo style one. I think the green and gold that the Pelicans did for a while, the Baby Cakes did, that was new and interesting for a while, right? And then that got played out quickly with the City Edition coming out with a new uniform every year. After a while, it just got tired. To see the Pelicans try something different with that whole idea was very fresh and appreciated. So the Saints, though, like as a rivalry uniform, would you do Mardi Gras? Would you do voodoo, or would you do something completely different?
I don't know if you guys remember this. I mean, you should probably will, but there was the arena football team that was the New Orleans Voodoo,
Yes,
New Orleans
yes.
Voodoo. So I don't know that they can necessarily go in that direction without opening them. I don't know that the Arena Football League could even attempt
I
to sue the NFL.
I think the
But
NFL's lawyers would just stomp that out in a
yeah,
second.
yeah, but I mean, I think that there are a lot of opportunities there. I mean, we saw like in the Super Bowl logo a couple years ago that they had the wrought iron balconies, those kind of things. I think there's a lot of subtle ways to do things, and that's what I'm expecting out of teams like this with the rivalry stuff. It's not going to be something that's super in your face. I know we saw the Seahawks, for example, they did the iridescent helmets and had their numbers and like those kind of things. But to be honest, that kind of fits in with who the Seahawks have been since Nike took over. The Saints aren't going to do something crazy in that respect. So that I could see, you're going to have like some sleeve stripes that have, and this is just me speculating, but you'll see like sleeve stripes that have the wrought iron balconies, some kind of custom number font, but it's still going to look generally like the Saints.
And then in that same color scheme and everything. And
Yeah.
now, like the Seahawks weren't that crazy team until Nike started making them the crazy team, right? So
Yeah.
like all it takes is one other team to say, "Okay, we'll be
Yeah.
next,"
Which is
for that
crazy,
all to
'cause
change.
not to change the subject too much, but we're kind of getting to that point where this is who the Seahawks are. Like I know that
Yeah.
they have their throwback uniforms that everybody loves and those kind of things, but when people who are younger tune in, they're like, "Oh, the Seahawks are the Oregon of the NFL," and they kind
Yep.
of expect those bright colors and those kind of things. So it'll just be interesting to see, where we're talking about these redesigns and kind of merging the classic look with something modern. If the Seahawks ever try to get away from what they are, they're going to find themselves in an interesting spot of how much do we keep, maybe the totem logo around the shoulders for like the classic look, but with this dark navy blue and the action green, like those stand out as the Seahawks, and especially since they've won two Super Bowls too, like that
Hmm.
that's kind of find yourself in some interesting territory there.
All you have to do is survive a couple of generations before people start looking at your current look as something that they can look back on fondly, right? Like the New York Jets got this all backwards because they don't wait long enough for their current look to get classic before they just abandon it and go in an infinite loop of throwbacks and moderns. And all right, Andrew, let's just settle it now. Okay, come on, Saints, home road alternate. Give me your colors for each.
Yeah, so I mean, I think that you just take the 1967, 68 throwbacks for the home, consistent, bring consistency to the gold. I would use their current logo on the side of the helmet as opposed to the simplified logo that they had on those. Road is going to be the color rush, but with gold or black or white pants options. Gives you a white helmet with the I would think that's the important part too, is when you're talking about the alternates, like they totally messed up their black alternate helmet. Like what they were thinking with the fleur de lis
Mhm.
stripe. I mean, I get wanting to do something different, but when you have a traditional stripe that would fit with the rest of your look, go with that route. So,
Just keep
and
it
then
simple, right? Like,
yeah,
why mess with it? Yeah.
so that gives you, just mix and matching. You can go all black. You could, if you can figure out the gold, maybe do the gold jersey. You don't have to do it, but at least that gives you the option of maybe let's see if it works, and if it does, then go from there. So yeah, I mean, it's really just going back to that classic look again, adding in the modern logo, updating the golds, and going from there.
No, I think that black Saints helmet, now that you mention it, now I'm thinking about it, that's got to be the record for the most logos on a single helmet, right? Like that stripe had at least 1,000 fleur-de-lis on it.
Yeah, I mean, the Seahawks have their like the feather pattern in that same way. And honestly, I haven't looked at it that closely to see if that the Saints is their actual logo or if it's like kind of a,
Let's
a
let's get
different
let's get
version of
research
it.
on that.
Yeah.
Research is going to get on that, come back with an answer.
The Seahawks could do
Um,
like a whole like flock of seagulls.
well, technically, the Seahawks logo goes on forever, does it not?
Tell
No,
us
it
Or
more,
does
wraps
it just
Chris.
around to the other side. It's a
or does it
two-headed
just have
single.
two heads? Yeah.
Yeah.
That brought me to something I thought of during the Super Bowl because I remember watching them and I was like, wait, these logos don't fit on some of like the newer model helmets. So like you have
Yeah.
like
Mm.
the Speed Flex helmets, it looks one size, but then you got somebody in a Shut F7. That helmet's so much bigger, it goes over the vents a little bit differently, and you're like, wait, that logo looks too small. So, the equipment people aren't sitting there and saying, oh, hey, I have a size 2XL helmet, I have a size large helmet. I know that there's a little bit more detail into it than that, but they're using the same size decal for all of them, so it kind of makes some of
Yeah.
them look too small and some of them look too big.
I imagine at some point we'll see variable sizes and decals at some point.
Yeah.
Someone will
We
do
have the
it.
technology.
We have the technology. We're not afraid to use it.
Guys, I'm going into teal withdrawal here, so I'm gonna bring us back and talk about the Dolphins. The Miami Dolphins, one of the classic brands in all of NFL, needs a redesign. Andrew, tell us why.
Well, first off, you're going to have everybody in our comment section mad that you said teal and not aqua.
Oh no. I did it. I did it. That's my bad. I apologize.
But again, it's the same kind of thing. It makes me wish that I saw these uniforms in the 60s, like when they were originally worn, because to me that they're very much the same way. They've worn these throwback uniforms for the last 12 years. They added the road version a couple years later. And really, to me, that's what the Dolphins should look like. I mean, they kind of look, and people have said this in our forums for a decade plus now, but their current logo looks like it is for like Crest toothpaste. And then, the stripped down uniforms, there's just nothing to it. And I think when they do wear these throwback uniforms, it just stands out and it says like, wow, this original design looks so much better. Like, why are they not just adopting that? So I think very much in the same as the other two, which to me, the only difference is I don't like how their old logo looks. Like it's just not something that will look great on merchandise. It's not scalable. You lose kind of the detail as it becomes a thumbnail on NFL.com or on our page for their logo history or those kind of things. So I think that I'd be interested in seeing kind of like the current sun backdrop mixed with one of the more modern Dolphins and seeing how that meshes up. But the uniform itself, I mean, you have these classic stripes. I'd probably go with a teal face mask instead of a gray face mask because that's just another thing that kind of brings it a little more modern. I know that that's kind of a big point of contention is do all these teams really need a gray face mask? Like, would they look better with a colored face mask? 49ers, for example, they had that period where they had a deep red face mask. Yeah, I liked when they went back to the gray because it looked, you know, classic. It looked what they were, but at the same time, we're in 2026. We got to kind of add a little bit more to make it feel like it fits today and isn't just this thing that existed forever.
So I love talking about these logos and the old Dolphins logos with the dolphin wearing the helmet is just like almost comical to me, right? Like it looks like the helmet doesn't fit. It looks like if that dolphin's actually swimming in the water or jumping out of the water, as it sort of is portrayed, the helmet's just coming right off. I do love your characterization of the new logo as being as looking like a toothpaste logo. I think that's absolutely true. But the dolphin wearing the helmet is just hilarious. I mean, it looks like something from a movie, like a Will Ferrell movie or something,
Or a Jim Carrey movie.
or a Jim Carrey
Ah.
movie. Yes, but that's I always think about this with baseball logos because you often see baseball logos where like the logo is a character wearing a hat and the hat has the logo on it, and it's just Inception all the way down, with of logos wearing hats. Did the Dolphins ever wear this like just a white helmet with an orange M on it, like is in the logo?
Nope. Their entire history, they've just had the dolphin on the side.
I do want to know, like, what is that helmet he's wearing then? What is the white helmet
Yeah.
with the orange M on it
From
there?
memory, I believe it's just an M, like an
It
orange
is.
M.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, it's just an M,
Yeah.
but like, what team is that?
It's the 1960s AFL rivalry set.
Of course.
Well, for me, like the Dolphins are tricky because there's such a love for the original look, but that original logo, as you mentioned, isn't necessarily a great logo. Like we just love it because it's the old logo.
Right.
It doesn't scale down well. It's not a traditional logo design. It's like a pencil sketch or something that someone just colored aqua. And even their 90s modernization of it, I think it had the right idea. It cleaned up some of the problems that the original one had. The 90s redesign isn't all that bad, but it feels a little too minor leagueish. It doesn't feel like something that an NFL team would have. And then the logo they switched to like 2013, it just went too far. It went in the wrong direction. If they would have kept the dolphin leaping the same way, keep that goofy helmet on the dolphin with the orange M on the side, whatever. But some sort of combination of that mid 90s logo and I guess the current logo in a way, that is the way I would go with them. I have absolutely no attachment to gray face masks in the NFL as someone who didn't really grow up caring about the tradition of the National Football League. An aqua face mask is absolutely the way to go for this team. Would if this team didn't have the tradition of wearing a white helmet for the last 60 years, Andrew, would you suggest that this team wears a white helmet?
I mean, it's something that I've done before because I know you'll remember last summer I did a series about, maybe it was 2 summers ago, I did a series about what a second and third helmet should look like for every team. Now, that's not to say that I thought that they should actually do it because I mean, shoot, I did a Dallas Texans inspired one for the Kansas City Chiefs where it had a star in the middle of Missouri and Kansas. Like that was somewhat serious, but also at the same time, like that's not something that they're ever going to do. So,
Mm-hmm. It's a
I
fun
did it.
idea, though.
Yeah, I did a teal and an orange helmet for the Dolphins just with their current logo. But to me, I don't necessarily think that they need anything different, and I think that restraint is an important part of it too. Is you can't sit there and say like every single team needs their standard helmet, a black helmet, a white helmet, or whatever else fits within their kind of brand guidelines. And to me, the Dolphins, once you get away from that, it's like I don't know that they need anything. And I think that the rivalries uniforms that they have that are that dark navy blue, I think once a year I'm okay with that. Like that's a series that they're trying to do something a little bit different that is still within their brand, but also kind of creates some excitement for something new. I'm cool with that. So if that's what you want to do, is kind of update that, add this modern logo that we're kind of hypothetically putting together on the side instead, and to me that's all you really need. I don't even think that they necessarily need an orange alternate jersey. I could see them going in that direction, and I think I suggested that in the story, because you can just kind of follow the same design. Just it'll be a white and an aqua pattern on the sleeves, and that creates something a little bit different. But there are teams that you kind of get into that mindset of in 15 or 16 games a year, I need to see them be in what they are. It's fun to switch it up every once in a while, but we don't need to tune in every Sunday or Monday or Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, since they seem to not play on any day other than or except for a Tuesday. I just don't need to tune in and see the Dolphins really be anything but the Dolphins.
It's kind of refreshing. What a wild concept to
Right.
turn on a game and just know exactly what a team looks like. Tuesday morning football in Europe, by the way.
Oh,
If you go to the NFL and watch a game in Amsterdam, you'll
I think that we've seen it with the NBA. The when Nike took over in 2017, they just gave everybody, you have your association, your icon, which I don't like. Let's be honest. One is a home uniform, one is a road uniform, one is an
yeah.
alternate uniform. Hardwood classic. That's all you need. You don't need an
Mhm.
earned edition because you made the playoffs, which thank God they got rid of that. I don't need to see a different city edition design every single year. And I'm glad that Major League Baseball is like, okay, we're going to keep it on a 3 or more year cycle for the City Connects.
Mhm.
Like there has to be some sort of consistency and brand recognition that exists when you turn the TV on.
Yeah, and the NBA has gotten absolutely ridiculous with that in recent years. Earned edition, I just want to point out that my basketball team won the NBA championship while wearing their earned edition uniforms. So I am
I'm
stuck with that
I'm learning so
ridiculous.
much.
Stuck with that ridiculous. The uniform didn't say Toronto, didn't say Raptors on it. Whatever.
Just the North.
Uh, it said North. Yes, hooray for the North. Not even the most northern team in the league. Well, I think this is a
Ooh, fun
pretty
fact, Paul. Do you know who that is?
It's not the Supersonics anymore. Is it Detroit? It's Detroit, isn't it?
no.
It's got to be the Timberwolves.
Oh, Timberwolves. Yeah, it's probably Minnesota, right?
My guess would be either Minnesota or Portland, but I think Minnesota's probably further north than.
Huh.
Be a good thing for our research.
Yeah, let's get
Yes,
our intern on it.
my boy's giving me a thumbs up, so that's either we're either right or he has misplaced confidence. Hmm?
Chris, I don't
Yes.
I don't blame your
Feel free to
son.
leave all this in. Feel free to
Uh,
leave all this in. I'm good with this.
I don't blame your son at all because he's Canadian and no American knows thing one about Canadian geography. But according to the internets, Portland Trailblazers are the northernmost NBA team.
There you go. Well, that's what I said. So,
That's what you said. But he was giving
and
you
I
the
am
thumbs up
also
for
Canadian.
Minnesota, which I would have gotten that on my, I guess, third guess, right? Because I said Detroit first, and then I said Minnesota. Well, I agreed with Minnesota, and then I said Portland. Anyway, hey,
Hey,
let's let's get back to
let's
NFL
let's
redesigns.
wrap up the Dolphins here. I think this one's going to be real easy, Andrew. Although I could see the alternate one being a little tricky. Home road alternate colors for the Dolphins. What's your suggestion?
I'd say white helmets for all of them. You got your aqua jerseys. At home, white pants, all white on the road, and then you have your orange alternate jersey if that's what they choose to do, and then obviously the rivalries, which I guess I wasn't really thinking of those when we're talking about the grand scheme of the other ones because they haven't gotten to that point yet. So it'll be interesting to see, like Jaguars will have it this year, the Saints in a year or two. So it would be interesting to see how those kind of fit into that grand scheme of things too.
Is it orange or is it coral?
Uh-oh.
Oh, geez. I
Oh,
mean, are we talking like, what their brand guidelines say, where everybody
I
like
don't know.
we have I think the
Chris
Texans.
Chris works for Crayola, so he's got to, he's got to get all these color names in here. So
That's not true. And I think you said Jaguars, so that makes him feel a little bit better.
He's
Um,
talking to the wall
I'm
and
talking.
talking about the colors of the. I'm not going to say it, but I say crayons. I don't know how you guys say it. You
crayons.
probably say,
Yeah.
yeah, I say CRANZ, crayons.
Crayons.
Chris. Believe it or not, but I believe Paul and I talked about how to pronounce
We
this
did.
word in an earlier episode, and I pointed
Probably
out that
inspired by the Jaguars.
that's probably what did it. And I'll just reiterate the fact that my entire life I said crowns, and then I met my wife and I said crown to her, and she laid into me pretty good. And I studied a YouTube video where I learned that it is crayon. So
Crayon.
now I
Yeah.
I go with crayon.
Yeah.
Trying to stay on topic here.
Yeah.
Next, I believe we have my favorite NFL team, believe it or not, the Carolina Panthers.
How about that?
Andrew Lind, what are you going to do to my Carolina Panthers to make them go from being the best looking team in the league to the best looking team in the league?
Well, now knowing that, I'm curious what you thought of the article. But to me, it kind of goes back to a couple years ago, and we actually broke the news that they were getting new uniforms Now, that was kind of interesting though, because some of my sources come from a merchandising side of things. Other ones come from people who work within the team. Some of them come from apparel manufacturers, like those kind of things. That one specifically, and I had a couple different people tell me straight up, like, "Hey, they're getting new uniforms." Little did we know it was just literally on the merchandise side of things. And we reached out to the team and we talked to them, and they said, "We're just getting an updated color." At that time, we kind of did speculate, like, hey, where are they going with this? We don't have a lot of information, but we know something is changing. And I had made the suggestion of, well, we're 20 some years into what they look like now. We know that their owner owns a soccer club that shares a stadium with them that also has this bright blue, black, and white color scheme. Could they potentially go in that direction and get rid of silver? And since they updated this shade of blue, we've seen them kind of kick silver to the back on top of that. So it makes me feel like we were kind of already going down the right track of something that they potentially had at least kicked around. I said in the article they've only worn silver pants like 6 times max in the last 3 years, compared to black is going to be the most worn. But you got your white pants, and then they even have the processed blue pants as well. Those have been worn more in the last 3 years than what the silver pants have been worn. So it makes you wonder, like, where are they going with this? And so to me, and my proposal is just you get rid of it altogether. Now, in hindsight, I'm kind of wondering, like, where do you go if you get rid of it? Because that's your helmet. That's what their helmet has been, aside from this black alternate helmet. Do they take the black alternate helmet and make that the primary? Or are you starting to get into this, kind of, you came in at the same time as the Jaguars and they have a black helmet. Are you kind of starting to encroach upon this other big cat team with that? So, can you add a processed blue helmet and go in that direction? To my knowledge, nobody else has that. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe that's something that in hindsight I wish I would have added to that story and gone in that direction. But to me, it's just the biggest thing is you have a good looking uniform. I mean, the stripes themselves are unique to them, especially when they have, the ones that wrap all the way around the bottom of the arm. That's something that they've owned for 31 seasons now. So you don't have to change that. I think it's just removing that silver and then simplifying it, and then deciding, do you want to be a black helmeted team or do you want to be this light blue helmet?
Right. I largely agree with everything you said right there. I feel there's really no attachment to the silver. They've worn it as their primary helmet color, as you said, for their entire history, but I've never understood why. Right. It doesn't feel like it's a part of their set, even though it's pretty much their primary color. That black helmet looks so good. Like the way that they have the logo flowing right into the black, you just see like the highlights of the cat. It just looks so awesome. And you mentioned that black uniform with the stripes going around the arms, voted the NFL's best uniform of all time in an
Mhm.
NFL.com poll back in 2015, believe it or not. If it was up to me, really embrace that blue. I love that shade of blue. Go with the black helmet as a primary. You can have blue as an alternate helmet color, whatever. And then, like you say, black or blue, what is the primary home color? To me, I really don't know. I think it's interchangeable, whichever one. Does the NFL allow you to have two different home colors? Do you have to give a name to every uniform? I think they say you do, but let's be honest, right? Like, who cares? Everything's so like fluid here now with these uniforms that you could easily get away with having a black uniform worn for the same amount of home games as the blue uniform. Ride the hot hand like they do in Major League Baseball. If you're in a winning streak with it, just keep it going. And then on the road, I don't care what they wear. What do you think about that?
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree. I think the black helmet, that's one thing. There was one note that I left in there too about wanting to update that logo, because I don't like how it's just a single color. If you look at any other application of their logo, the eyes and the mouth are, at least I think it's the eyes. I'm not even looking at the logo right now, but the mouth should be white. The teeth
Mhm.
should be white. And I think you do get that it is lost against the helmet, because it kind of from a distance looks like just this random blue
Mhm.
stripes that are on it. Ohio State just unveiled new black uniforms. And with those black uniforms, they changed from a matte helmet to a glossy shell with like silver flakes. And I wonder if if the Panthers are a team that should, if they were to like promote this to their primary helmet, get rid of that matte look and allow that helmet to pop even more than it does, because that's my biggest concern about that helmet. It is interesting though that you said that that was voted as the best uniform in the league 10 years
Mhm.
ago, because uniform, as we know, includes helmet, jersey, pants. And if we're just talking about the jersey, that would be one thing. But if we're talking about the entire thing, well, then what was voted by fans as the best uniform in the NFL had a silver helmet and silver pants. It's
Yeah,
just kind
well,
of interesting. It kind of goes against the idea that we're
yeah,
promoting here.
absolutely. Well, it's
But
also possible that the fans just thought jersey instead of, they didn't really think into the definition of it all, or they just picked whatever their favorite team was and mass
yeah,
bombed the polling.
I have two notes on this logo. One,
Go, Paul.
the Carolina Panther is shaped like the two Carolina states mushed together. The outline, it's the outline of both Carolinas. And two, no tongue. So no need to worry about what color the tongue is.
Paul Caputo, no tongue. Let's put that on your name
That's going
profile.
in my next jingle, isn't it?
I've
Is
always
that
found that fascinating though, that, and I know that that's what they say. But
Yeah.
I'm always curious if that's one of those things that I would love to dig up. And this is what sucks about the, like, growing up in this age of where the internet didn't really exist in the way that it does now, back in 95, 96, whenever they became a team. I can't just look up and see a press release that said that logo was specifically supposed to look like
Right.
North and South Carolina. Or is that just something that along the years people have kind of been like, I can close my eyes a little bit and I can kind of see North Carolina and South Carolina right here.
There was a minor league baseball logo, the Richmond Flying Squirrels, that for years people said, "Oh, it's the shape of Virginia." And I was actually interviewing the designers. Here's the second mention of Brandiose on this episode. I was interviewing Brandiose, and I was like, "So you made it the shape of Virginia, huh?" And they were like, "Son of a gun!" So we did. It was totally surprised to them that their logo was that shape.
Is it the one that's flying?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
yeah. Since redesigned into a different shape altogether, anyway. So that point is kind of moot.
Now,
Yeah.
I
I mean,
haven't heard, like, I don't think the Panthers logo is actually a North South Carolina put together. Like, my gut tells me that that's something that kind of just got
yeah.
applied to it after the fact.
Yeah.
But
Retrofitted.
Like a tall tale kind of thing that people just said afterwards. It's kind of the
yeah,
same thing with like the Falcons. Like, I get the
right.
idea, and I think that they might have been one of those teams that said that it was supposed to originally look like it was the shape of an F.
Hmm.
But now to people say like their current logo, which is more modernized, it's more italicized, those kind of things, it doesn't really have that same F, but people are going to apply it to that because
Hmm.
of that. Or like the Eagles, it has the E in it. I wonder so much, because we don't have the same, the internet being the same, and this cache of information that we did, that we have now. We can't really point to it and say, unless we talk to the designer, like, was this your actual intention? We're just going to have these groups of people who say, no, this isn't it. Yes, this is it. And then that's where we exist.
Yeah, what I've learned in talking to these designers is that none of those things are intentional. Like it's same with the Padres logo recently, right? And they said, "Oh, there's a hidden P in the SD." I asked the designer, and I said, "You put a P in there?" And he said, "No, absolutely not. There's no P in that logo. I don't care what anybody says."
Uh,
But yeah, this sounds like something made up. But you know what? I'll go back. I can look at newspapers.com and find the original press releases
mm,
from I think 93 or 94. The logo came out. We'll get to the bottom of this, Andrew. Don't worry.
yeah. And I'll ask Nick Castellanos about that Padres P.
Don't talk to Nick Castellanos anymore. That
I'm not
guy's a
allowed.
bad influence on you. Andrew, Carolina Panthers, home road alternate. What colors are you going?
So I think I'm going to stick with the black helmet for the primary. And then I would actually probably go process blue jersey for the home option. I think just having the ability to go all black for like a Monday night or Thursday night football game would be the way that I would go. Throw in the process blue helmet for an alternate. It's, again, we talk about not needing a white helmet for everybody. I can see where a white helmet could exist within this set, but to me, it's not needed. Really lean into the fact that you would have a unique helmet to the league that you could break out that nobody else would have, and don't don't minimize the opportunities that you can wear that by adding an unnecessary alternate into the equation.
I agree with you. I love that blue. That's all I'm going to say. I love the blue, and I would be happy with any way they go in that uniform. But yeah, saving the black for special occasions, that's a good idea. I like that idea. It would certainly stand out more than, just another team wearing blue. Okay, so I think we only have one more on this list. The New York Giants. Now, this is a bit of a tricky one.
Oh, sorry. Reflex.
Who there's uh,
I
we
thought he was
really should
booing
have.
me.
Yeah, why would you? Don't boo the guest, Paul.
Sorry,
That's just
excuse
it's
me.
such a
Sorry.
Philly thing to do, to just boo your
There's a
guests.
big rivalry between all of the SportsLogos.Net contributors here. So
Yeah, I can't keep any of you people in the same room here. Um, the Giants. Okay, so it's been a theme that in recent years, obviously, that teams are just throwing back, right? They're just going to go back to their old looks. The Giants went back to their old look, and I can't think of a more boring uniform in the NFL than the New York Giants road uniform. I know Giants fans love it. I have no time for it. Andrew Lind, with that knowledge and not wanting to offend your host, what do you think about the New York Giants uniforms and what they should do? Why do they need to be changed?
Yeah, the biggest thing that I have not liked since they switched to this uniform set was just the disconnect between, you're the big blue. You have blue helmets, blue jerseys, and they have gray pants and recently switched to white at home. And then you go to the road set and it's like you look at the jersey and there's no blue on the jersey. Like it just doesn't make sense. And I get from the 1950s when, textiles and fabrics were not just readily available like they are now, that you may have had some mom and pop shop that just happened to
Mhm.
have, some red available and wanted to throw it in and make it a little bit different. But I just don't think that there's that consistency that exists within their current look. And I think that that's where you see a lot of fans go back to like their throwback uniforms and you say, okay, look at these, the white uniforms that they brought back as part of their color rush uniforms. And those have a lot of blue on them with some red accents. And that just to me looks like a better uniform. Then you throw in, they brought back the Navy helmet when the NFL peeled back the one shell rule, the darker Navy helmet. And it's like, wow, that looks a lot better than what this more modern, brighter blue looks. So now you kind of find yourself stuck in this area of, hey, we have a couple different things that look good individually, but as a whole entire set, I don't know that it matches very well. So to me, it's like, okay, just look at the throwback uniforms. Those look, especially from the road version, I think that that's what I would like to see them be at. But I think that their home uniforms that they currently have are perfectly fine. Like I don't see any issue with that. To me, I would probably darken it up a bit, just to go back to that dark navy blue. Look, we're in 2026. Like I said earlier, we don't need to have a helmet that doesn't match the jerseys. So don't be wearing a dark navy blue helmet because in 1950 you had a dark navy blue helmet and a jersey that wasn't the same. We have the technology to do it, so let's make those things the same. So then the same thing when it comes to the color rush uniform, or well, what would presumably be the road uniform in this. I want to see that consistency of the home uniform has a single color number, so do the same thing with the road uniform. Just have a single dark blue number. You want to keep the stripes that are on it. I'm fine with that because we can point to another period of time where that's exactly what they had. Now, I know that there's going to be people who are like, oh, this uniform that you're throwing back to didn't have very much success. But to me, that looks better. I don't think you have to necessarily tie, like, we literally watched the New England Patriots win 6 Super Bowls and a uniform that was not a good uniform. Are we going to sit here in 20 years and say, "Hey, let's go back to that uniform because they won in it"? Like, no, that's not a good uniform. There were stripes that didn't match. There was like they literally had blue stripes on blue pants with a little bit of, trim that made it stand out a little bit. We could argue that all day. Like, what is it that makes a uniform? Does it look good or does it have history tied to it? So to me, it's simplifying that uniform, going to a dark navy blue that's consistent across it, you want to switch it up every once in a while. The lowercase NY, the underlined Giants on the helmet, switch those out. There's no issue. There's no rules that are going to prevent you from doing that. Especially we've seen it with all these teams that, they during the one shell rule period, they would take the logos off their helmets and put on another one just to make it fit with the throwback uniforms. Like I said, it's just a matter of finding what looks good more than putting any emphasis on a period of time where they had success. And then to me, you have white pants options, you have a gray pants option. Like there's ways of still creating that like more recent classic look, but also something that is timeless and will just exist forever.
You brought up what makes a uniform good if it's design or success. It's really just a combination of the two, right? Like we will see some of the gaudiest uniforms just be absolutely loved by fan bases. We bring up the Tampa Bay Devil Rays a lot during our conversations here because, like, let's be honest, that is not a good looking uniform, but my God, do people love it. Even though the team saw no success in those uniforms and have seen only success in their current uniforms, which are the most boringest set that we've ever seen.
And look at the NFL team that shares the city with them. Buccaneers lost their first 20-some games in uniforms that people are like, oh my God, they need to go back to this like now. Now, that's a whole separate thing because I think that they exist in the perfect area of you have your modern classic, your throwback that you can add in a couple times, but I would never want to see them go back to that full time at what they're going to lose in that process. But everybody loves them despite the fact that they had the worst record in the NFL the entire time that they wore them.
I love to quote John Hodgman on this. Nostalgia is a toxic impulse.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's the common theme between the two, right? Like, it's not success. It's just they just don't wear it anymore. And that seems to be all that matters.
Yeah.
Okay, Andrew. Well, I hate to cut this New York Giants discussion short, but we are a little long on time here. Let's just say, what are you doing for home road alternate, if applicable, for the New York Giants?
Yeah, pretty much the home uniform is going to stay the same. I would change the stripe on the pants to match the stripe that will be on this new hypothetical road jersey sleeves. It would just involve a darker navy blue than what they currently use. You'd have white or gray pants options. Same thing for the road uniform. You could go navy blue helmet, white jersey, white pants, or navy blue helmet, white jersey, gray pants. I don't think they need the red jersey that they flirted with for a couple years because that just kind of goes against the whole big blue thing. And yeah, I mean, we don't need every team to have an alternate either. Like just them being able to switch the decal to be like, oh, hey, today we're the lowercase NY, and then another time you're the underlined Giants. Like that would be enough to make a majority of that fan base happy.
Yeah, and this is, like you said, this is a set that does not need a uniform, an alternate uniform. And they tried, the only like real alternate uniform a team like this could go to is red and white, which they did, and it just didn't work for this team. So yeah, I feel like this is a great example of a team where an alternate uniform just is not necessary and would actually hurt the brand, I think. Okay, well, are you going to join us for Minor League Minute? And where were they, Andrew? What do you think?
Yep, I'll be here.
All right, it's that time. Paul Caputo, let's hear the Minor League Minute.
It's the Minor League Minute with Paul Caputo. Paul Caputo. It's the Minor League Minute with Paul Caputo. Paul Caputo. It's the Minor League Minute with Paul Caputo.
I'm quoting all over the place here.
All right, on your marks, get set, go, Paul, go.
Today we are talking about a new alternate identity from the Binghamton Rumble Ponies, AA affiliate of the New York Mets in the Eastern League. They play their ball games at a ballpark called Mirabito Stadium. Interestingly enough, that site contained a bait and tackle shop that was established in 1948 by an 18-year-old dude named Richard Stack. Richard Stack went by the nickname Dick. Guess what? That bait and tackle shop became Dick's Sporting Goods, the very site where the Binghamton Rumble Ponies play their games. The Rumble Ponies are going to celebrate Binghamton's connection to Dick's Sporting Goods, as well as, quote, a love of summer baseball and fishing on the lake. with an alternate identity. They're going to be playing as the Binghamton Bobbers with an alternate identity that features an anthropomorphic piece of fishing gear called a bobber. Your Binghamton Bobbers from the Binghamton Rumble Ponies, celebrating Dick's Sporting Goods. The Minor League Minute.
Have you seen this logo close up? Because it feels anatomically correct, which is just not a thing of minor league baseball. There's something going on with this logo, Paul.
Unless they're trying to do that on purpose, which we've seen some minor league baseball logos get some attention by virtue of adding anatomically correct things to a logo. And so, yeah, maybe they were trying to do that on purpose, and it just didn't quite catch on the way they hoped it would.
Are you referring to the pearls and the clam?
Yep, the oyster catchers was one of them.
What was the one where they did the Nirvana album cover too? Like that one was a little.
That was the Madison Mallards. They did the Neverminds, and they had their mascot playing the role of the baby from that Nirvana album.
And we don't even want to get into the whole Portland Pickles and their mascot.
No, they do all sorts of things that are explicitly provocative. Let's just say that.
Yeah, and they don't even try to hide it. Like, Andrew, you're young. I don't want you looking at that Twitter feed. Just stay away from it. But again, here, Paul, this is my favorite thing about minor league baseball alternate identities is that they educate as they entertain. I had no idea that Dick's Sporting Good started in Binghamton, New York.
And it was a bait and tackle shop established by like an 18-year-old guy named Richard, right? Like that's where Dick's Sporting Goods came from. So
amazing.
Binghamton, famous for Dick's.
Andrew is going to replace you on this show. I think after today's display,
you're going to need your own jingle, Andrew.
I'll take care of that for you. Don't worry. What are
Chris,
we doing now,
yet
Paul?
another segment here on this show. Yeah, it's Where Were They? Let's invite our guest, Andrew. Do you have a Where Were They? Do you have a famous historic sporting event where you were there in person that you'd like to share with us? And then Chris and I can tell you where we were.
Well, not necessarily in person, but if you like, just like a cool story attached to a big moment that meant a lot to you as a fan of a team. I'd ask where you were when the Orioles won the World Series, but that's not going to be a good answer.
Probably the same place I was when your Blue Jays won the World Series last. Oh, wait.
Oh man,
no, it doesn't work. This guy doesn't work. I got two banners that I can celebrate. You want to talk about where we were when Encarnacion walked off in the wild card series? Because I got a good story for that.
Yeah, I remember throwing my couch pillow across I didn't even see that ball hit the ground. I was already in the other room.
I was in the front row behind first base, my friend. Great. Okay, sorry. This is going to turn into a fight. Let's not.
I was just going to say, this got real dark here. I wasn't trying to start something.
Well, we're in the same division, Paul. We can't be in the same room.
So I don't know the exact date, but it would have been the All-Star game. The NBA All-Star game was in Philadelphia. That same weekend, Carmelo Anthony and Oak Hill played LeBron James and St. Vincent St. Mary's in one of the biggest high school games ever. My uncle actually worked in Akron, and this is kind of some lore for myself. My uncle worked in Akron, and he got tickets to it, and he and I went to the game, and the whole way there, he's like, LeBron he's the greatest thing ever. He's going to be better than Michael Jordan. It's just typical Ohio thing. So me being the contrarian that I was like, okay, I'm going to root for the other team. So I was rooting for the other team, and Carmelo scored like 34 points. Oak Hill won, and just kind of the whole way back, I was like, just talking all kinds of crap to my uncle, and that kind of became the starting point for when I became a Carmelo Anthony fan, and I named my dog after him, like those kind of things. And so that would have been, I want to say 2002. Would have been like February 2002.
You have good memory. February 10, 2002. And I know this not because I'm a Philadelphia sports fan, but because I Googled it.
Google.
But it was cool because the All-Star game was in Philadelphia, and I believe that game was in Trenton, New Jersey, which I'm not super familiar with Philadelphia, that area, but I believe it's just like right across the river. So it was just kind of the spark note for my fandom in that respect.
Yeah, Trenton is not far from Philadelphia. Camden is the city that's right across the river, but then Trenton is not too far from there. February 10, 2002. Chris, where were you?
Well, that one's it's a bit of a dark one for me, so I'm not going to get too far into it. We had a death in the family
Oh no.
right around that day. So I don't remember that game, but I will say that next time you see your uncle, let him know that Carmelo Anthony made it to the Hall of Fame before LeBron James did. You don't need any more context. So in a way, you were right.
Yeah, I'm still salty that he didn't win Rookie of the Year because he should have, and I will die on that hill with so many statistical things, and the fact that the Nuggets made the playoffs, the Cavaliers did not. Like, I've been in plenty of arguments with people growing up in Ohio and wearing my powder blue Nuggets jersey in the hallways, and everybody just giving me all kinds of crap. So,
are you a Nuggets fan then in basketball?
no, so I just followed him throughout his career. I don't really have a favorite team anymore at this point because I just followed him to Nuggets and then the Knicks, and then once he left there, it was funny because I had actually purchased pretty much every jersey that he owned, and then once he went to the Thunder, and then everything just kind of went sideways. I was like, yeah, I'm not spending this money anymore.
I don't know. Like those couple of weeks in Houston, you might want to remember those.
Yeah, that was the end of it. So I bought a Houston Rockets hat with the old 90s logos, like the light blue, had the red, the spaceship and all that kind of stuff on it. I wore it like 2 weeks, and I was like, yeah,
that was it. Then he was gone.
Yep.
The Denver Nuggets, though, they have a storied uniform past here that I think we should break down sometime.
That's an entire episode we can do.
That's what I'm saying. Absolutely.
I was going to say Carmelo wore 00 for Portland, the NBA's northernmost team, as we've learned today.
That's right. That's right. I Googled it. It's Portland first, and then Minnesota, and then Toronto, and then Milwaukee.
Wow.
So my guess of Detroit was way off.
Toronto's not even the top two, and they're calling north. Portland should challenge them on that.
Yeah. Yeah, they're just going to wear jerseys that say West, though.
Are they the most Western team? I think they might be, right?
They should be.
The coast comes in a bit.
Yeah, I think.
Get on Google.
Portland Trail Blazers are also the westernmost team. So they are both the northernmost and the westernmost team.
There you go. They should hang 2 banners in the arena for that.
I'm guessing this is not the last time we're going to have Andrew on the podcast. Episode 11, Chris, is in the books. We didn't have time, though. We ran out of time for that Bridgeport Islanders story. We'll have Andrew back on sometime to talk about the Bridgeport Islanders. But other than that, it's been a great conversation. Andrew, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me, guys.
All right. Thank you, everyone. This was a great episode. We will see you next week on the SportsLogos.Net podcast.